We have a special treat for you today. We're going to be speaking to a candidate running in Ohio about their race for office. We're going to highlight these local elections that are happening all across the state, either in your state, in Ohio, helping you guys get involved to show you the type of people that are running. We're going to now introduce this lovely person. Could you introduce yourself?
Absolutely. I am Alicia Roshong, and I'm running for the 89th District House of Representatives. I'm very excited about it. I have just started the campaigning journey. My opponent is an incumbent Republican, and actually another Republican has entered the race, and it's kind of an interesting story. He used to be the 89th District seat holder, and he was convicted and basically lost the seat. The person who replaced him is the current incumbent.
What was he convicted of?
Felony theft, I believe. I mean, he's conceded to that fact because the incumbent did try to oust his candidacy. And the Ohio Supreme Court actually ruled that he was able to run. And it was based upon discretion of the Board of Elections. So there is a primary race for the Republican seat, and then I will be running against the victor of that seat.
I understand that there's been some redistricting which makes this seat more competitive now?
Another interesting question. Absolutely. It has been really widespread and rampant in Ohio. And again, for this seat specifically, I don't know if you all, which I assume you will, Jim Obergefell was actually the prior candidate for this seat.
From the gay rights case, the Obergefell case, which helped make it so gay rights,
yes,
LGBT marriage was across the land in the United States, the Supreme Court case.
When I had coffee with him, it was funny. He was there to help me, but I was just in awe of him because I was like, you don't know what you did. You are one person who made a difference. People need to realize you as one person can make a difference. You've got to do it. You've got to have the strength to stand up and do it. Yeah. So I was just like, I had kind of like, as a lawyer, I had stars in my eyes. So
can I ask you, what made you want to run for State House as opposed to something local?
I think it's really because of the situation and the status right now that's going on in Ohio. I mean, I was watching how it was developing. I mean, we all know what happened with issue 1. I mean, you have a vote, you have a victory. It's brought up again in November. You have a vote, you have a victory. Nobody seems to care what the voters are saying. To me, that means that the democratic system is not working. I finally, when I was approached, it took me about 15 minutes to say yes. And then after, thinking about it, I was like, absolutely, 100%, I am going to do this. Each one of my children, I have 4 kids. They're all out of the house now. They're all, adults. And they were like, Mom, what are you doing? I said, I'm doing this. How do you feel? And they were like, go for it. 100% behind you. So as long as, you have your family behind you, I just felt it was something I absolutely had to do. I had to be a voice for actually the people that vote because nobody else is listening to them. So that was the main reason.
You have an extensive career as a litigator. I wanted to talk about with you that career you've had and specifically a lot of the class action suits you were involved in that I know many of them you're proud of.
Very. I've been practicing law for 32 plus years now. And I've always been a plaintiff's litigation attorney, which means we represent the little guy. If something happens, discrimination, you name it, we are there to protect people's rights and interests. I know we get a bad rap a lot of the times, but in some class action, there's 2. One is an environmental issue. I was one of the attorneys involved we actually sued a landfill company. Because of they're decimating the city of Fostoria. At least, our allegations and assertions are that, what they are doing violates EPA rules and regulations. And again, as the policing agent, from a civil standpoint, all we can do is get to money. So we do it that way. And what we did, we crafted it so it was a nuisance case, and it was for the smell. I mean, this landfill has odor that that goes miles and miles and miles. You know, the water tastes different. I have businesses there. I have a Dairy Queen that's there. And we have to buy a reverse osmosis, you know, system because I sell Mr. Misty's. And, you know, we need to make sure it doesn't taste like a puddle out in your yard.
You're saying that it's so bad that you can taste it in the Dairy Queen products?
What we have, and I was just at a rally the other night about the landfill is trying to do an expansion, a double expansion. We actually are there fighting for it not to, because the EPA is what controls that. You know, as lawyers, you cannot govern the governmental body. So I was there to implore them, do your job. When you can see physical manifestations in your environment and it's only happened over a couple of years, you know there's a problem. There is a problem, and you know they got to get to the bottom of it. And I mean, there were so many people at this meeting, and I mean, people are desperate. I mean, people are getting sick. You know, that causal connection is very difficult legally to connect. But you know, eventually over time, I think you're going to see patterns, and it is scary. There's a lot of people that have got up and smoked that have cancer, and you know those kind of things that just seem not in the normal. You know what I mean? If you're looking at statistics, not normal. So those are the kind of things that we go after. You brought up the opioid issue.
Yeah, before the conversation, we were talking about opioids. You know, I've lost my mother to drug addiction. I know many people have lost family members to drug addiction. The opioid crisis is ravaging this country. If you were to get elected in the state of Ohio, what is some things that you and other legislators could do to try to save the lives of Ohioans?
I mean, really, you have to legislate for stronger requirements for doctors, and it is happening. And I believe that we kind of started that with our march that we did against, everybody knows about right now about the opioid litigation. And what we targeted in that part of that litigation was to go after them, to sue them on behalf of municipalities because of the cost that people, that these cities are paying for, you know, more police, Narcan, I mean, EMT, you know, all the visits. I mean, it goes so many places that you don't even recognize or understand what it is affecting. It doesn't just, you know, absolutely, it's heart-wrenching for the individuals because it is affecting everybody, and it does not discriminate. I mean, there is no question that this drug does not discriminate. So it is terrifying and it is scary. But we as litigators, you know what I mean, try to police it however we can legally get in the door. And doing it that way was, you know, how we did it. And we are right now wrapping up. And I'm a very minor player. What I do is I recognize what might be a class action, and I take it to some real heavy hitters. And, you know, I get to be on board. But I'm very proud of what we're doing in trying to make a difference. And I do think as a legislator, you have to recognize the problems. You have to sit down with your committees and try to figure out ways to tighten things up and to make even like healthcare more accessible for people who have the problems and things like that.
It just seems like our national politicians are in their camps and they're not interested in working with each other, but we can seem to accomplish something on a local level where the states have taken over since the federal government has failed so miserably to solve our problems. So really the onus is on our state lawmakers now to get together and try to fix this, solve problems like the opioid crisis.
Right, and I agree with you completely. And I do think you know, a lot of lay people don't realize how important their legislators are. Right. They're the ones who truly are affecting your day-to-day life. Right. They create the laws, you vote on them. We have to make sure that what they vote on, you know, remains to be what the people have said, and we do have to go by the vote, but I think that we absolutely have to, you know, we have to start working together. We have to be able to get the job done because the states are now experiencing more and more, you know, they're kicking things back to the states, and when they do that, you have to, you know, you have to stand up and be able to accommodate.
Last election season, there were 2 referendums that passed in Ohio about legalization of marijuana and a woman's right to choose. But after the results of those elections, there was a push by certain Republican legislators to try to overturn the results of those referendums, saying, well, they may have won, but it should have been by a larger margin, and they wanted to change the results. How, as a Democrat, are you going to protect those victories since the referendum, seemingly for some Republicans, was not enough?
What you have to do a lot of times is through litigation. And again, I hate that lawyers have to be the policing agent, but if you look at even what happened in the trans bill, now you have the ACLU going after because the governor, vetoed, and then we had the reversal. So sometimes litigators have to be the watchdog. Sometimes you have to use that, to support your position, because it was in court, and the Ohio Supreme Court actually kicked it back to, I believe, the Court of Appeals on that exact issue. And you just have to, every avenue that you can get at, but once it already went through the amendment, the amendment was adopted, but now they're trying to change the law. You can't legislate things that are unconstitutional, but if it gets passed, then it's the lawyers who have to deal with it. And that is how it happens.
What do you think about propositions in general? It seems like there's some criticism, like in California, where I'm from, we've had a lot of big money pour in and try to change some of the rules by circumventing the state legislature. Do you, in general, support propositions? Or I don't know what they're called in Ohio.
Yeah.
Referendums, yes.
Not particularly.
Interesting.
So,
leave it to the state legislators.
I know that a lot of people were very upset about how confusing they tried to purposely make the referendum questions.
Absolutely.
Yeah, because originally they tried to raise the threshold, and that was kind of a gambit that they used, from what I understand.
This is something else that I'm very passionate about, is keeping things transparent. Everything tries to get buried and hidden. And it happens all the time. After a vote, I mean, how many times has this happened when a bill is passed, and then they're like, well, I didn't know that I voted on that. I didn't know that was in there, because things are hidden a lot. So I think it is important and imperative for all legislators to be very transparent, and also be able to describe exactly what the voters are voting on, and to let their voice be heard. But in order for their voice to be heard, they have to know what they're voting on.
Yeah.
So I mean, it's a circular argument,
right?
But we still have to be mindful of what's happening and do what we can as the voice to make sure that everybody is heard appropriatly.
Cool.
Kind of where I'm
well,
at.
I think we're wrapping this up. Okay. So I really appreciate you coming on here and chat with us. We don't get to talk to elected or people running for office.
Running, yes.
Yeah, and so it's
Not
really a treat.
official yet.
No, because for me, you're like the ultimate activist, that you're taking it to elected office. So I really appreciate you coming on here and chat with us.
I thank you. Again, I'm really honored to be here. I think what you're doing is fantastic. Seeing so many young people mobilized. I mean, politicians couldn't get this many people out.
No.
I am telling you right now, it would not happen, because we go to a lot of events, but I've not seen an organized event like this. So kudos to you all, and keep it up. I mean, you guys are all from all over the country. Yeah. So go state by state by state. Keep sending the message, because it's important. Yeah. So we're glad you're here.